Most people think the Mahabharata begins here, amid the frozen chaos of Kurukshetra, right as Lord Krishna delivers the Gita to a hesitant warrior. But you can't understand a civil war by looking at the day the fighting starts. The real conflict began generations earlier, operating as a slow, quiet decay of political ideals within the royal court of Hastinapur. It is the story of an empire that built its vast power on the absolute rule of merit, only to rot from the inside when its leaders traded objective justice for personal, emotional attachments. Once a sovereign removes the blindfold of justice to favor their own blood or desire, the collapse of the entire nation becomes a mathematical certainty. To see how far Hastinapur fell, we have to look at the man who built it, King Bharata. After a series of brutal military campaigns, he consolidated a massive unified territory. His northern borders stretched deep into the freezing peaks of the Himalayas, giving him unquestioned control over the sprawling subcontinent. Yet his most powerful act wasn't military. With 9 biological sons waiting to inherit the throne, King Bharata stood before his court and flatly rejected every single one of them. He told his devastated mother that a king is not merely a father. He declared that a person's worth and their right to govern must be determined entirely by their capability to mete out justice, not by their bloodline. Finding his own sons lacking those vital qualities, he bypassed the royal family entirely and handed the absolute power of the empire to a commoner named Abhimanyu, the son of a local sage. By legally severing the concept of leadership from the accident of birth, he locked in a period of stability. The citizens knew their lives were governed by competence. Keeping a state secure requires a leader willing to publicly sacrifice their personal legacy. But political frameworks require active maintenance. Several generations later, the stone fortress of Hastinapur was ruled by King Shantanu, a man operating in an era where the rigid requirements of merit had been forgotten. While out hunting along the river, Shantanu became utterly infatuated with a woman named Ganga. In his desperation to make her his queen, his political logic evaporated. Ganga agreed to the marriage, but demanded a strict condition. Shantanu must never question her actions, no matter what she did. If he ever interfered, she would leave him immediately. Shantanu agreed blindly. In a single moment, the absolute ruler of a massive empire legally surrendered his right to interrogate his own queen. This oath effectively stripped away the sovereign's power to investigate crime, turning a private romance into a formal surrender of state security. The bill for that abdication came due almost immediately. Shortly after the birth of their first son, the queen walked down to the banks of the river and drowned her own newborn child. Shantanu watched the murder happen in plain sight, tongue-tied and completely paralyzed. He did exactly the same thing when she drowned their second, third, and fourth sons. Trapped in his own mind, he rationalized his silence. He prioritized the maintenance of his marriage vow over his legal obligations as a father and his duties as a king. His advisors were appalled. The royal priest confronted him directly, stating plainly that a sovereign who lacks the strength to protect his own children has zero capacity to defend his citizens. The prime minister pointed out the darkest truth. Because the king refused to sentence the murderer, he effectively legalized homicide inside the royal court. In prioritizing his marriage over the law, Shantanu dismantled the objective justice system his ancestors had sacrificed everything to build. Look at the distance between these models. Bharata demanded objectivity, removing his family to save the state. Shantanu demanded emotional comfort, allowing murder to save his marriage. This weakness set a precedent. Ego consumed the court, guaranteeing future generations would tear each other apart. The millions of soldiers who eventually bled out in the mud of Kurukshetra didn't die because of a sudden diplomatic failure. They died because, decades earlier, a single ruler refused to speak up and enforce the law. A system never collapses overnight. Its ruin is guaranteed the exact second those in power decide their personal attachments are more important than the truth.